Hello and welcome to episode 79 of the Hollywood Knitter Podcast. My name is Allison and this is my podcast and I'm recording on January 7th, 2024. Happy 2024, everybody, from my home in Los Angeles, California. How's everyone been? It has been, a little over about a month and a half since my last podcast. First one of 2024. And today's podcast, I'm going to do my normal bits of going over my knits, talking about my life, and then I'm going to talk about 2023, kind of my goals, how I met them, both a little bit of personal and some knitting, and then talk about my upcoming 2024 goals. So any point, want to jump off, feel free. It is January in Southern California, which means it is much nicer than the rest of the world. I think today there are snow in a lot of places, blizzards coming through, and we are windy but sunny, I think high 50s, low 60s. So one of the reasons I live in Southern California, I am a former New England girl, born and raised there, and the cold and the snow and winter was never my thing. I know some people love it, and that is awesome, but it was not something I particularly enjoy. So when I came to LA for college and then kind of experienced the weather out here, that was it. And yeah, I've been out here. 2024 will mark my 30th year out here in Los Angeles. So yeah, I came out as a 17-year-old to go to school at the University of Southern California and have never left. And I will be marking my 30th year in Los Angeles this year. Time flies. Who knows, you're getting old. I do have a co-host today. Oh, you can't really see her. Here, I'll go down a little bit. She's right there. It's Apple. Apple Kitty's gonna apparently take a nap behind me. She is definitely a slightly Velcro kitty. She loves me a lot. And when I'm home, she is always very close to me. She follows me from room to room. If I'm up and doing things, and she is where she can see me. And if I leave a room for too long, she comes and finds me. So she is going to apparently take a nap right behind me. But she's a very sweet kitty. I'm very happy. I'm very happy we were able to give her a good life. Not that she didn't have a great life before. She did. It was just unfortunate that her former owners, my partner's cousin, had to give him up because her kids developed allergies. But she's living the second half of her life with us, and we're very happy to have Apple. Though you can't see, but white cat, there's just white hair everywhere. Everywhere. I've always had animals, but I've never had a white animal, and it's amazing. Even brushing her and everything, it's just, there's a lot of hair. Anyways, let's get on to knits. I have actually finished quite a bit since there. Starting with the sweater I'm wearing, I'll sort of just, it's hard for me to stand up. I'm going to set you back for a second. I apologize for, and then yeah, my metamorphic sweater. I'll talk about it in a second, but I love this sweater. I love it so much. You can kind of see the sunbeam. I'll come back in a little bit. There. Sorry for all the, you would think I've never done this before. But anyways, it is what it is. It's 2024. Yes, the metamorphic sweater. So this is the metamorphic sweater by Andrea Mowry. I started on knitting on it in October 1st and finished it November 25th. So it took me about 2 months. The yarn, it's a DK, DK and sport weight. The yarn is all Queen City. This kind of is Queen City Coleman DK, which is her 65% silk, 35% linen base, and sand. And so that is carried throughout. And then the changing yarn is a hand spun, also done by Queen City. And that's 2 skeins of that were kind of, they weren't exact, but they definitely were contrasting. And so I ended up with this really great muted sweater. Very comfortable, very easy to do. I like the detail with the line that goes down the front, goes on the sleeve, and the back of the sleeve. Didn't show you my back too much, but my back is pretty good. That's where the color change happens. Yeah, overall, I'm pleased with it. I did have to do a some changes. Well, a few things. I did a few things on it, honestly. So when I knit it per pattern, I didn't feel like there was enough initially here. And so I ripped back and redid the yoke till I got where I was happy with it. It's actually stretched a little since then, so I probably could have gone with the original. And then I knit almost the entire body and realized that when I took off for the sleeves, I did the wrong number of stitches. So I had, like, 70 for this section and then 50 for this section, 70, 70. And I never noticed, and I knit the whole body that way. So knit the whole body back up to the sleeves and then reknit it. And then I got to the ends, and before I cast off, I tried it on and really kind of did it, and then it was too long. So then I had to go back and knit or rip back another 3 inches before I got to the perfect length. All of that is to say, 1, you should try on as you go. I was not trying on enough. And 2, don't be afraid to rip back and make a perfect sweater. It's one of my things I want to talk about more, but making a knit that really is what you want and fits you right is a skill that we have as knitters, because you can change things. Does it hurt to rip back and reknit what you've done? A little bit. I'm more of a process knitter, so it hurts me less than I think some people. For me, it's more I want it to be done with something by a certain thing, but the actual reknitting to do something doesn't really bother me. So in all, if you took the amount of time I spent on this sweater, I probably knit it twice. And that's okay, because I'm really, really happy with it. It's actually, it's pretty loose, which is very Andrea Mowry kind of style. Fits up here and then, loosens as the body. It, falls and drapes very well. If I were to knit again, I might knit the smaller size and I might stick some waist shaping. And I think that is just a lesson learned for me now on where I like my sweaters. A lot of sweaters now don't have any waist shaping, and I'm finding myself that is giving me a little too much fabric in the body than I like. It fits fine and it looks fine, but it's just, more fabric than I want. So future sweaters this year, you might see either selecting some styles that don't have as much or modifying them, so I can kind of do some of that. But yeah, overall, Metamorphic was great. Andrea Mowry, writes a good pattern. It was, a very easy, not easy, but it's you knit it in stockinette, and so a lot of what you're doing is, you're knitting it in the stockinette, but then the purl side is what you do out. So very easy to hide changes of colors and things like that. And I love the way the mutedness of my colors, like it's got the oranges and the yellows and some greens that I love. And then with this, sand color, it's a whole muted vibe that I love. And it's super comfortable. I really like it. Looking at it now, this is a little bit wider neckline than I like. But it is what that is. I could have, and I think I modified the neckline because I do not like anything around my neck. And so I think I actually changed the neckline so that I wouldn't have that. And now that I'm wearing it a little more, it's stretched out a little bit, and now it's a little wider than I'd like, but not anything that is untoward. So that is my Metamorphic by Andrea Mowry. Okay, I think I'm just going to go in the order I finished them because I have a little bit of a stack. Another hat I did, which was on my Make 9 for 2023, was the Boneyard hat by Telly Bean Knits. How adorably cute is this? Look at that. I did the ones with the ghosts. And this was intended to be a Stash Buster hat for me. And so this is all stash scraps I had. And the white is Broco Comfort and Pearl. The green is Julie Spins MCN. And then this brown is Ula and Leah. It's a Mongolian Yak Down. And this hat ended up being, I'm not going to even try it on, ended up being just a wee bit too, I kind of had thought I would make it for me, but it is just a wee bit too small. It needs to be go to someone with a little bit smaller head. To be fair, I have a big head. And then the color work blocked out really well. I'll show you my floats on the inside. I didn't capture I don't think, I only captured a few really long ones, but other than that, I think my floats look pretty good. Yeah. So, great pattern, very clear, great little stash buster. I would definitely do another one. In fact, I might do another one for next year for Halloween for myself, making it big enough for me. But in the meantime, I think this is going to go into my gift basket, and I will find a future recipient that is perfect for it. But it's just so cute. She also does a DK, I think it's a DK version of this hat. This is fingering. And Telly Bean Knits has a lot of great kind of little color work and things patterned, but I really love this. Being a Halloween girl, it was awesome. So yeah, that took me 2 weeks to knit. The color work is slow. The way I do my color work is slow because I do pick up and drop because I just don't do it enough. And because I'm a thrower, it's not something, I can get the tension right, if I don't do it that way. So especially on small projects, I just do it the slow way. So it does take me a long time. Yeah, so that was the Boneyard Knits hat, or Boneyard Sweethearts, sorry. Boneyard Sweethearts by Stephanie Lotvin, who is Telly Bean Knits. And that was, as I said, a make 9, which I will talk about in my wrap up later, how I did. The next thing I'm going to show is a scarf that I'm actually going to mail off. I was hoping to finish it before Christmas and get it off, and I did finish it in enough time, but I didn't want it to get lost with, you know, December packages. I finished it pretty close to Christmas. I started this November 25th and finished it on the 16th. And this is, oh, I got a little hair on it. This is the Boyfriend Scarf by Angela Jurgens. It's a free pattern. And this is Madtosh Merino and Ceremony, and it's 2 skeins of it. It's just a worsted weight, and this was yarn that my mom picked out when I was with her in Virginia Beach last year that she said she wanted a very simple scarf. And I haven't knit a scarf in a long time, but since she picked out the yarn and requested it, and yeah, so it's all blocked and ready to go. I'm going to wrap it up after this podcast, and I'll drop it in the mail to her, hopefully this week, so she can still use it because it is cold over there. They're having snow over in Rhode Island today, though I did see it was supposed to warm up later, so it'll probably melt in a few days. But, you know, snow is pretty when it's falling, and that's the kind of, you know, weather I like. That it's there for a day or so, and then it melts. But I do love a first fresh snow, especially when you get a lot of it. It's very pretty. So yeah, this is, what is that? Sorry, I'm just picking stuff out. Very simple, you know, broken rib pattern. Madtosh is beautiful. I haven't knit with a worsted weight like this in a while. It's very silky, very soft, very beautiful. And yeah, I'll send it over and hopefully she'll get use out of it. She does wear a lot of my scarves that I've made over the years. It's funny when I go, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of my knits go to my mom at some point, and then she just never gets rid of them. So she has scarves that I made probably in my first year of knitting, back when the back when all the fuzzy, God, what is it called? That yarn, it will come to me. Anyways, she has a lot of those. So sometimes when I go visit, especially in the wintertime, I see stuff that I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot that I made that. So yeah, so that was a scarf I fitted with pretty easily. Next is a pair of socks. I'm calling these my Wild Rumpus socks. Look at how cute they are. The yarn is Canahan dyes, merino fingering, and Let the Wild Rumpus Start. And I used about 300 yards of it. And then this Tweedy contrast that I used at the toe and the heels is a Fiber Nymph mini that I got in my Advent, I think, last year. And so I pulled that out. And then for the pattern, this is actually the, oh gosh, Vanilla Bean Stripe Set by my friend Emily, and it's really more just a recipe where you slip when you come to a change in color. And I did that, and then I was knitting on these in the car at night, and I couldn't see where the color change was happening anymore. So then I just said, oh well. So then I just started doing, without doing that, and then I I decided for every color repeat, I would change it. So you can see I did it, the slip stitch, I did a solid, no slip, no doing that. Then did it again, solid, etc. So that's how it came out. Yeah, I think these are going to be, I can't remember who I was making them for, if they were for me or, no, I think they're for Juan Carlos. I made these for Juan Carlos. So these are going to be another pair of socks for him. How the socks work in my house, because he is a very worthy recipient and has lots of pairs of socks for me, is that these are his sock blockers. That's how I know I really made them for him, because I put them on that. And they will now kind of reside on my wall. I hang my sock blockers up on the wall, and my latest socks that I've knit for him, as well as either myself or my mom, hang on the wall. And then another pair of socks I knit a while ago that I showed you, I forgot when I finished these. These have been hanging out on there, that sock blanker, since then. These will now go into the sock drawer. So I finished these a few months ago. But he's due for another pair of socks, new pair of socks. He, as I said, he wears them. He wears just commercial socks to work because he works construction, kind of inspection and stuff, similar kind of field that I do. So he wears that to work for boots and stuff, and then everywhere else, unless it's like summertime, and you know, he'll wear knit socks. So very worthy. Yeah, just normal toe up socks. That's how I do them, and kind of make it up as I go. Another pair of socks I'm going to show before I show my last project. These are a pair of socks that are, well, that are tackling my first FO of 2024. And my partner's mom turned 90. Her birthday is right before Christmas. It's actually the same day as my niece's birthday. And so they had a 90th birthday party for her. What do you get the woman who has everything? She has everything, and in fact is a notorious regifter. So I always keep that in mind when I give her something. She's very much appreciative of getting gifts, but she doesn't need a lot, or yeah. So this year I said, you know what? I'm going to make her a pair of socks. Now, she's very worthy craft-wise. She is a crocheter. So she does very much appreciate that I craft, knows what goes into it. It's always asking me about my socks, because typically I bring socks when I go to family events to knit, because it's small and portable. And so she's always asking about it. So I thought I will make her a pair of socks this year. So that was the gift I gave her. And so when right after her birthday, we went over to make tamales. They do an annual tamale making, her and my partner, and then his son. And then I went over and made tamales too. And I do not have the tamale making skills, by the way. But I muddled through, we made tamales. And I brought a whole bunch of socks skeins so she could pick out her color. And so she picked out a Desert Visitor Dye Works. I don't think when she picked it out, she recognized or realized it was going to be self-striping, but it is a Desert Visitor Dye Works Viso. And the colorway is Wrapped Up in May. And then I knit these little socks for her. Now, I made them ankle. She's a very, very petite woman, very petite. But it was funny. So I wanted to measure her, and in addition to just getting her shoe size, if they're there, I prefer to take a little measurement. So I do a little circumference of the foot, and I do a little ankle circumference, and then with their shoe size, I can usually, hopefully, I haven't made a ton of people socks besides myself and my immediate family, make socks that will fit. So I did take some measurements, and of course, JC made it weird. And he was talking it up because she primarily speaks Spanish, and though she speaks a lot of English, you know, our conversations are sometimes stilted, let's go with, but still fine. So he was saying stuff to her, and I was listening. I'm like, what are you saying? And he was like teasing her about how he's going to need to measure her feet, and she, you know, better make sure they were clean, to the point where she went and like washed her feet. And I was like, I just need some quick measurements around her sock. I mean, this is not a big deal. And he made it weird. He made it weird. And so I did very quick measurements of her feet. And as not expected, but she had a normal, it's not a normal, but if you look at a lot of sock knitting and knit a lot of socks, which I have, in general, a foot circumference and a ankle circumference tend to be very close to each other. And if you look at all the various measurements and things like that, that is the average person is very close. However, her foot and her ankle circumference, she has a very dainty ankle. It was a significant difference, like 1.5 inches. which is why I didn't want to knit a big leg, because I would have had to really fit a leg without doing a pattern. I would have had to go down, and then I was worried that she wouldn't be able to get it on over her heel. So that's why instead I did just a ribbed cuff so that it will come in on her smaller ankle, and then I made them a little shorter, and then I'll send them over. Now, these may not fit. She may not like them. She may not ever wear them. None of which I probably will ever hear, and that's fine. When I send gifts out or give gifts to people, that's how you judge if they're knit worthy. Like, this was a special gift, and even if she never wears them, I know she's going to save them. She's going to keep them. And it was the thought that counts more than anything. And these, I knit these in like a week, a little over a week, because they're smaller than my feet. and then it just was quick. So from a time standpoint, it didn't take me that much time using stash, which I need to do. And then knowing that she'll appreciate the thought, even if they don't fit right, even if she doesn't like them, that's all good. The other thing is if she does, which she will probably be honest with JC and he will tell me, over time, maybe not. If she expressed any interest or actually likes them, then I could make her another pair. And there was another yarn that she picked out that she liked the color that I noted if she wants it. But yeah, so I'm just calling these Teresa's birthday socks, 90th birthday socks. And I just did them toe up with a gusset and then just a simple rib, heel kind of thing. And yeah, I'm going to wrap them up and gift them. He goes and sees her every weekend. And so I will wrap them up. And next week when he goes to see her, he can give them to her. And yeah, hopefully she likes them. Hopefully they fit. There's a lot of hope there. But I was happy to make them. And yeah. The last project I have, I started this in November. This was another Make 9 I had from Stash that I had bought specifically for this project. And I'm not going to try it on, but I will talk about it. This is the Rocket Tee by Tanis Lavely, and it is a very ubiquitous progress. There's a lot of people who've done these. And it is just a simple tee in a sock yarn and a mohair striped. And yeah, so the yarn for me is some I picked up at Stitches West. It's Pearls Before Wine, mohair, and Blueberries for Sale. And then the contrasting is Pearls Before Wine, Robusta, and Born in the USA. And I used exactly one skein of the fingering, the entire skein, and then 90% of the mohair. The mohair had a little bit more yardage, so that makes sense. And then I did a contrasting solid mini that I had because I was worried about it, and I kind of like the contrast, so I did that for the I-cord edging on the sleeves here, and then the bottom. The other thing I did, which is I wanted to use it all up, so I did like probably one more row of stripes than I should have, so it is a little longish on me. But it doesn't matter because I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to find another home. So even as I was knitting this, these are not my colors. And I know this was me trying to go out of my color sense and get something that is different. They're not ugly. They're not anything. They're just not something I would want to wear. I don't actually like to wear stripes for the most part. And then, yeah, these colors aren't doing it for me. Now, the t-shirt itself, light as air. It's beautiful. It's great. The shape is great. The other mod I did is, she actually has just a bind off right there when you separate, and I did another stripe to make the sleeves a little bit longer. And as I said, I did probably one more stripe at the bottom and then kind of went into this color a little bit so that I could do the I-cord bind off. And then I stretched it. Now, I also did some modifications. My gauge was a little off, so I followed, I think I followed the 48 to get a 42-ish. And I probably, if this were for me, could even have gone smaller. Like it blocked. And I probably didn't block my swatch. In fact, I don't think I did. But what this teaches me, or really kind of reinforces, is that I like making things for the sake of making things. And so the fact that this will go into a gift box and I will see if my mom would like it. If she doesn't, then I'll bring it to Knockers for the table, and I know it will find a home. it will find somebody who loves it. But it was not an insignificant amount of time. It took me about a month to knit. It was pretty easy. But for me in general, garments should be something I want to keep. I don't mind the gift box for like accessories and stuff, but I think I should make more of an effort, and it's kind of one of my goals I'll talk about, to make knits that I'm going to want to wear for me, and not just make it for the sake of making it. Now, would I make this rocket tee and something else? Not in the stripes, not with the mohair per se. It's not my style, but the style of the t-shirt is. It's a very simple, easy t-shirt. And I have seen some other people who've just done it like in a fingering and just used that as the template for that. And I might do that. Maybe. There's a lot of other kind of shirts out there. And to be honest, I don't know if I wear a lot of knit t-shirts. It kind of straddles for me, and where I live, it straddles to not. So anyways, one of the things I'm going to do is try to kind of really look at my wardrobe a little bit more and decide and knit sweaters. And I'll talk about more of my goals. But anyways, the pattern was great. The yarn was great. If this is your kind of style, I totally highly recommend it. It is light as air. It is so easy. It is the mohair and the fingering. All it takes is a skein of each, and you can get for most sizes. Yeah, it's a really great project, which is why so many people have done it. There's so many projects, but it is not a project for me because of the stripes and because of the colors, which I chose and bought, trying to go outside my color zone. But outside my color, you know, when, I don't know about you, but if I go to an event, I'm going to be drawn to the same colors. And if you've been around your knitting friends for any period of time, you'll know what their colors are that they gravitate to. And sometimes I think that I should have other colors, but that's not what I want to wear. Like this is my colors, the oranges, but the sand was not. And my contrast that I was going for, I think I originally was thinking I was going to do like a deep green, and I went with the sand, and I'm really happy with it. But the hand spun is definitely my colors. So anyways, that's all the FOs I have. I think that's a fair amount for 6 weeks. I was cranking. I'm feeling very knitting inspired right now, which is good. And so I'm getting a fair amount of knitting time, making the time to get knitting time in. Sometimes I go through a knitting slump. I think I was for a few months last year where I was really only knitting on the weekends. I do have time on the weekdays. I just sometimes get tired and don't always mentally do it. But trying to get in a few minutes of knitting at work. I've started to do kind of like my sock or mindless knitting while I'm reading a book on like my Kindle. I figured out I can do that as long as it's not something I have to pay too much attention to. So I can do both, get my knitting and my going on. Audiobooks, I could do it too, but I don't tend to knit while listening to audiobooks. Audiobooks I sort of reserve for exercise or doing things. So anyways, kind of a mental weird thing. So we're a half hour in and we're just through my FOs. This is going to be a long one, guys. I already apologize in advance. All right. What am I working on? Let's start with my oldest one, which isn't very old at all. So as part of my Make 9, which I talk about, and I'll talk more, you know, I try to use at the beginning of the year, pick projects and stash I have in hand to do. And so at the end of the year, when I hadn't done that much, I was trying to pull them out. And this was one that I picked. And this is the Moonflower Shawl by Amba O'Brien. And it is gorgeous. I mean, it's a mosaic, as you can tell. Here's the backside. And the yarn is yarns I had in my stash for a while. It's Marigold Jen in the deep end, and then Fishnet Strongheart and California Wildflowers. So the light color is this yarn that was a Knockers Retreat yarn, I think in 2017. And yeah, I'm really loving how it is. This is definitely going to be a gift knit. It will probably, though it does look really good right there. I'm enjoying the knitting and the process of it, but it is a little bit slow. I'll show you the chart. So I got to pay attention on every row. As you get through it, you sort of definitely start seeing the pattern emerge, and so you can kind of keep on track of it. But I definitely Still need to look at every line and cross off every line and check off. And yeah. So yeah, I'm about a third of the way through it. I think I'm going to have to mod it to make it a little bigger. I think it called for 3 repeats, and it's going to be just a triangle shawl. 3 repeats, and then you start the decreases, but I don't think that it's going to make it long enough for me, so I might have to do 1 more. I should have enough yarn to do it, but yeah, this is the Moonflower Shawls by Anne O'Brien. I'm really liking it. I think it will be a great gift knit when I'm done. Yeah, and I have it in my Halloween silver, I think it's silver shed, so loving that. I cast that on in Thanksgiving, I think. I brought it with me on my trip. The other thing, so I was trying to get stuff off the needles, which is why I have so many things. So both of these are new 2024 cast-ons, and both are part of my Make 9 for 2024, which I'll talk about when I talk about goals. So the first one is a new sweater, and it is Tori Yu Brooklyn Raglan, which I don't know if there's a picture. I don't think I printed out the picture. I didn't. It's a very simple, oh yeah, here it is. A very simple raglan sweater that DK weight. Tori Yu is a relatively new designer. She's only been out a few years. She's got some great stuff. The other sweater that I might do of hers is the Shocking Stripes, but I decided I had this yarn, and this is Monster. Does that sound right? Zombie Yarn Monster and Tricky Spay, which is a DK 100% superwash, and I have enough skeins of it, and yeah, this is totally me. So it is a cream base, and then it has the flecks of like a neon kind of yellow, and then little bits of orange, and then the green, and then this is totally my colors. So yeah, so I've cast that on. I'm just, as you can see, I'm still doing the increases for the raglan, and this is the front. So it was short. I've done all the short row shaping on the back, and now I'm doing the raglan in the front until I get to where I'm going to split for the sleeves, or split for the body. Split the sleeves from the body. Let's be more accurate. And very well written pattern. Loving the yarn. Loving doing a DK weight sweater. And we'll be happy to have this. And then this is in my Fat Squirrel bag that sort of matches it. I'm sorry, I keep looking behind me. My cat, she's touching me because she's stretching and her napping. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about it besides it's well written. I'm happy to be casting on for a DK weight, and it's going well. It's going relatively fast. I cast this on I think 2 days ago, so I've been knitting on it. And then the last pattern or project I'm working on is a pair of socks. This is the Craggy Shore by the Blue Mouse. It's a free pattern. This is technically kind of a knitting along for the Virginia Beach, where you kind of do like nautical themes. This was one of the patterns, so I'm knitting it actually as written, which I don't usually do. So I'm knitting it top down. I almost always do top up. Probably once every few years I do a top down one. So I don't have too far that I've done. I've just cast on and I've started the leg, and then the yarn is Queen City and her Noda, and then the colorway is So Much Drama, which I really love. It's these grays with, again, my colors. I've got a thing. So yeah, so these are my purse knitting projects right now, and I cast these on I think 2 days ago. As I said, one of my kind of goals this year is to try to get more knitting, not at work, but I do have a lunch break, and I tend to read during the lunch break to try to knit, as well as, and I've talked about it before, focus on the meeting I'm in by knitting instead of half focusing by checking my emails while in a meeting on Zoom or whatever program you guys use. That is my knitting right now. Now we're going to go into kind of just talking about my normal, talking about life and stuff. As I said, I'm going to talk about my goals and stuff at the end. So what's been going on? What have I been doing? Well, the holidays happened. Christmas was great. And I have some acquisitions I'm going to show, or an acquisition or two. I stayed in California for Halloween, celebrated it with JC's family, which means it is a Christmas Eve. So we go over there at 9 o'clock after 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and we're there till 3-ish, 3:30, 4 in the morning. And so we got home at 4:30, and then I get on and do FaceTime with my family, though timing of it this year didn't really work out. So I didn't get to see them open presents. I needed to go to sleep as they were slowly getting up. So it didn't work out this year. But yeah, so the holidays were great. Thanksgiving was great. And we have been enjoying. We saw the first show of our season tickets for the Broadway kind of season ticket I got for the Pantages Theater, which is the local theater, one of the local theaters in Los Angeles, who has the touring shows for Broadway. And we saw MJ, which was really good. I didn't know what it would be going into it. When I have new Broadway shows, I try not to know too much going into it. I might go through and listen through the music once, or the cast album once, if there is one, just to have a familiarity with the songs, but not too much about the staging and things like that. So I didn't know where it was going to go with the story of Michael Jackson and how it was going to play. And it was just really well done. I know sometimes he's a polarizing person in the fact that public opinion over him changed over kind of his lifetime, but he definitely had so much music that is of my youth and even before that, and had a very interesting life. And the musical was very well done. Afterwards, I think I looked into it and saw that it had been, done in conjunction with his family and things like that. So it was good. It was just really good. And then the staging of it, I love a touring show of Broadway. They're just so much talent. There's so much dancing in this. And so, yeah, it's a great night out. We have tickets, so we go on a Wednesday in the middle of the week, and we go have dinner and see a show. And then, we're so tired the next day because we went out. We went out on a school night. But, yeah, that was great. And then I did a trip. I went and hung out with my friends, my knitting friends, my coolest knitting friends. And we were in Florida for a week of just purely hanging out and knitting, and it is glorious. Totally recommend, if you have a group of friends to go do that with and you have the time and you can do it, just do it. We didn't have a knitting event. We weren't going for like a Rhinebeck or anything like that. We literally just went and got our friend has a condo that she gets a few times a year, and she very generously invited us. This is the second year we did it, and it was just nice. Being at the beach in Florida in the winter, and not having anything on the agenda but hanging out and knitting and watching basketball and college basketball and other stuff. And it was really relaxing. So really loved being there and the people I'm with. And then I've just been watching stuff like most of us, knitting and watching various things. For me, murder mysteries. So if you have, I'm watching BritBox right now. So I'm alternating between, I think I mentioned, I'm alternating between Acorn and BritBox. So I'm in my BritBox half of the year. And so I'm watching Vera and Sister Boniface. And I watched Father Brown for the first time. I watched the latest season. I had never watched him before. Death in Paradise, and then Shetland. I had watched Shetland the first 5 seasons, I think, when it was on Netflix. And so I'm catching up. I think they're on season 8, and I just finished season 6. And PBS, because we are PBS subscribers. I'm watching, I watched the 2nd season of Annika, which is a great Scottish police procedural, which is very cool. And then on Netflix, I'm watching Called the Midwife, which I've been watching for years and years and years. And we just watched The Night Agent, which was really good. It came out, I think, earlier this year. It was kind of that's one JC and I watched together. It was a kind of it was action-oriented flick set in DC, and, it was good. And then we just finished watching Fall of the House of Usher, which was another one he picked, which is not usual. I usually like a horror-based anything, and I hadn't watched this one. It was, I guess, on our list, and he just started watching it, and it was very interesting. Very interesting, kind of taking in all the elements of Edgar Allan Poe stories, bringing it into this family and the fall of the House of Usher, and we went through it pretty quick, so it was interesting. There was some gore, there was some of that horror element to it, but not overwhelmingly so, and it had some, great actors in it. Books. I've been reading a lot. So since the last podcast, I've read 15 books. Sticking with my normal My reading is escapist, and so I do a lot of supernatural with romance elements. So I continued with the Sean McGuire Cryptid series. I picked up Melissa Marr, so the new author to me. She's doing a Fairy Bargain series, which is about set in New Orleans, alternate time, and she is a different kind of creature, half something, and then becomes engaged to a fairy, and it's, you know, it's going about the different mysteries of that. I just love that kind of escapist kind of supernatural stuff for me. Also read James J. Butcher. He is the son of Jim Butcher, who does the Dresden Files. And I think when I actually wish listed at the library, I thought it was him, and I didn't realize till afterwards it was actually his son's book. And it's his first debut novel, and it was a supernatural kind of setting, and it was really good. So I recommend Dead Man's Hand. It's the first, I think, going to be in a trilogy, and so I just read the first one, and I thought it was a good foray for a new one. Continuing the Sarah Painter Crow Investigation series, I finished book 6. And what else? And then, yeah, a few other kind of throwaway, more romancy kind of books, supernatural bent. Also read Patricia Rice. I really like her. She does kind of supernatural historical romances. So I read The Secrets of Wycliffe Mariner. And then I am into the Martha Wells Murderbot series. The Murderbot, I just read the short story Home, as well as her first full-length novel for the Murderbots, which was The Network Effect. And I just love the Murderbot. It's a very much science fiction, no romance at all, but science fiction, hard science fiction, but with such humanistic elements, because it's all basically set in a far distant future where there are kind of Star Trek-y. There are cybernetic kind of implants and things like that. And then there are these droids, but have a significant amount of, you know, tissue involved in them, but they're still programmed. And one of them are these security bots. And Murderbot is all about one of them who basically took himself off his programming and is like figuring out what it is to be a sentient being with your own will, and what that means in this, when the fact that he is not human, but he is programmed and cares about humans and what even having feelings is. And it's really well done. It's really well done. I highly recommend, if you're into that kind of stuff, the Martha Wells Murderbot series. And if the first one, they're all short novellas. So the first 4 are, you know, really quick reads or listens. I like listening to them. The narrator is very good. And just pick up the first one. And if you don't like it, then you weren't out that much. But if you do, it's really good. Yeah. So I ended up, yeah, I'll talk about my goals in a minute, but I read a lot last year. And yeah, so upcoming travels. I have my first trip on the books right now. It's Virginia Beach, Yarn Getaway in Virginia Beach with my friend Martha, who hosts that. That's at the end of February. I am also doing WonderCon, which is the comic book kind of popular fan fest in Anaheim that I do with my partner every, I guess it's at the end of March this year. Then the Northern California Knitting Retreat in April, and Zombie and Apocalypse in June, my annual trips. And then I have an international trip on the books. I'm so excited. So a few years ago, before COVID, you guys might have remembered I had a trip planned to go to Morocco with a small tour group called the Wandering Earl Tours, which I had gone to India with. Gosh, I guess it's like 6 or 7 years ago now. Yeah, so I booked it again for this coming October. So it's a 2-week trip to Morocco, and I'll be going with my brother, was with the original plan. And then my uncle and my aunt are going to join us too on the same tour. So it will be so much fun. So I'm really excited. I haven't been out of the country since pre-COVID, and I've been itching to get back traveling like that. I try to do at least one international trip a year, at least. Preferably more if I can get some, you know, local Mexico trips or things like that. So, and then Rhinebeck is on the books tentatively, but it does butt up against it is the following weekend from when I get back from Morocco. So it's a maybe. And my friends that I'm supposed to go with know it's a maybe. I'm not, I gotta look as I get closer and see where I'm at with work, or whether, you know, taking a solid 3.5 weeks off of work would really be realistic. So that's what I have kind of on my normal podcast. So if you want to leave me here, feel free. The rest of my podcast, I'm just going to go over 2023 goals, talk about different things, and then 2024 goals, both knitting and maybe a little personal. So if you're interested, feel free to stay. And if not, thanks for coming back and spending another 45 minutes with me of your life. I do appreciate it. And I love doing this. I was realizing I was going to look, I've been doing this a very long time. I started audio and then went to video because it's easier. And as I said, I do this for the friends I've met at all the various places that I know who watch me, and those who I haven't had a chance to meet yet. I'm definitely not, you know, one of the more popular ones out there, but that's not why I do it. I do it for my friends, that they can see and keep up with me. And I know when I see them that they do, and that helps them, because I am the worst correspondent with my friends. I just am. I'm not a big texter. I definitely, who talks on the phone anymore? Like any of that thing. So I'm really not good at keeping in touch that way. So this is my way of keeping in touch and getting people to have a little piece of what's going on with me, especially my knitting, which my knitting friends are the best. Anyways, moving on into 2023 and looking back. And let me pull up my, I have Evernote list for all the sorted things. So first, I'm going to just touch upon life goals, because I have a set of goals for the year. And again, they're not resolutions, they're goals. They get made or they don't get made in terms of it, but they just help me at the beginning of the year kind of shape where I want improvements or kind of things I want to work towards. And I have them written down in a little moleskin that's in my purse all the time. And every so often I just read them and kind of check in to see if I'm kind of still doing it. This year, I'm going to just touch upon a few of the life goals. Money is always part of it. And so I'm very much interested in increasing my net worth. And a few years ago, made this big leap and took a class. I think I talked to you guys about it, about investing for myself. And so I've continued to do that, investing in my portfolio, and I am self-directed, so I don't have anyone helping me out or anything. And yeah, that's going well. It wasn't the best. Last year was good for the market. The year before, not so much. But continuing to grow my own wealth. And I think it's important to talk about that because you're responsible for it. And it is not something I think that we teach young people enough about anymore, of looking forward. And a lot of what I'm planning is using my wealth and investing my wealth and growing my wealth so that I can benefit from my hard work now, as well as in the future when I retire, which will be at 55, because that is what I'm setting myself up to do. And I will luckily be able to do that. I know not everyone is that lucky, but yeah, so continuing to check in on my goals and do that. I invest very heavily in myself that way, in terms of putting a lot away for retirement and investments. And I've just been really happy with how I've done this year and how more adulting I've become. When you look at just even my net worth from the age of 40 to now, 47, it's increased quite significantly because I've invested in myself. Prior to 40, I was paying off my student loans. And honestly, that was a priority and that was good. I don't own a home because owning in Los Angeles is crazy, and I didn't make it a priority back when I probably could have gotten in, and now I'd much prefer to get my worth, my investment from investments. And so, yeah. Buying in Los Angeles, super crazy. Just saying. Most of you guys probably live in other places in the world, and our properties are crazy pants out here. Enrichment. I finished 163 books last year. That is up from 2022 when I finished 144. I love reading. I have always loved reading, but for a few years I let it fall off. And so now the trick is for me to balance my reading habit, which I really loved, with knitting and realizing, hey, I can knit and read a book. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I purely just read a book, and that is awesome. But I can get lost for hours. And now I'm like, I like the multitasking, and that is a crazy thing about me. Sometimes I do just want to focus on a book. That's great. Audiobooks, highly recommend if you've never taken the jump into audiobooks. My partner, who does not listen to a lot of audiobooks, he actually is listening to Stephen King It right now, and he's really enjoying it. And it's a book he's read before, but there's something to be said for hearing it acted out, the words for you, which is even better than a movie or anything like that. So I'm really pleased with that. What else did I have from Richmond? And culture. That was one of the things why I picked up this year season tickets for the Hollywood Bowl, where we went and saw classical music. One, it served multiple goals. One, we weren't, I think, going out enough as a couple. We have a lot of introverted hobbies. And so when we work and we come home and we enjoy our hobbies at home, but I felt we weren't getting out into the world enough. And so that helped us get out and have, be date night and, enjoy classical music, which is definitely something I enjoy, but he loves. And so having that, and then picking up this annual subscription for Broadway and having us go out, because I love Broadway musicals and he enjoys them. So that was another thing by doing that. And I've already renewed for our classical music for next summer. And the season for the Broadways actually goes through, I think, the end of next summer too. So my enrichment or personal enrichment, as well as getting myself out of the house a little bit more, is been very successful in 2023. Trips, I did 14 trips. And that is about average for me. That is kind of my unofficial goal, is to average 1 trip a month. I had a few where I was back to back for much longer. Maybe a little too close, but it was still worth it. I think I'm going to continue that. But yeah, I did 14 trips last year. And I count trips as staying away from home. And then the other big one was health, which for me, the end of last year, I went to get a general checkup, which I hadn't done in quite a few years. And as part of that was doing kind of all the annual things you need to do. So having a mammogram, I had my first colonoscopy this past year. And one of the other things you recommend is I had become, as most of us do as we get older, heavier. And my doctor recommended potentially, if I was interested, trying a weight loss clinic where they prescribe some of the weight loss drugs to see how you benefit from it. And I was starting to have health complications, early signs of health complications because of my significant weight gain. And I mean, from my normal weight where I carried in my 20s and 30s, I was up 60 pounds. So pretty significant. So I said, why not? Of course, like most of us on and off over the years, I've, tried to lose weight and I've had some success and it comes back. And every time it comes back, it seems to come back with a little bit more. And so I said, absolutely, if I'm a candidate and it works, then I would very much like to see how, medicine helps. And so I went on, I don't think I've talked about it here, but I went on Wegovy, which is a semaglutide. There's lots of various things out there right now. In middle of January of last year, and I'm still on it. And then in 2023, I lost 65 pounds. So it has been great, and it's not been without, it's not the easy way out. So everyone's like, oh, it's a magical drug. It's magical in the fact that it helps you a lot. And I want to kind of just say, if anyone's out there thinking about it, and to check it out and see if you're a candidate. But not everyone responds to the drug, first of all, which I know there's a lot of people who have taken it who are frustrated by that. And then if you do respond, there are side effects. There was a lot of nausea. There was a lot of, at the beginning doses when I was starting to take it, a lot of lethargy, very fatigued. And then really how you lose weight is it makes you not want to eat as much, not just through nausea and things like that, but I don't think about food. I don't wake up and think, okay, what are my 3 meals I'm eating today? Snacking, cut way back on the snacking. And I didn't realize totally to the extent that I would just blindly snack. And then just eating a lot less. I would be full after a few bites. And that was pretty evident almost immediately. And yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm still not completely done because I'm not at the healthy BMI yet. I am back to where I was in my early 30s. And then I'm going to see where I end up in another few months and kind of decide how I want to play this. But it has been a real game changer. It has more so for the mental, not thinking about food all the time, being full, like recognizing when you're full and just stopping and not being tempted, like at work. I'm sure most of you guys have lots of food that people bring in for the holidays, donuts and cupcakes and cakes and things like that. And previously, like I would always want to taste some or have a bite, and usually more than one bite. And it was like a craving. And now I can look at it and think nothing. And it's really that mental change. And I can't explain exactly how the drug does it. But it does. It kind of turns off something in your brain where you just don't have the same kind of cravings. And for that and for other things, like I pretty much mostly stopped drinking a lot of alcohol this year. Not that I was a heavy drinker the last few years, but one drink once a month, maybe. Just not there. So that was been great. And then as part of that, the other part of that is putting in more movement, because yes, you're losing that, but you also have to increase the muscle. So I definitely have increased my activity. I do a lot more walking now, hiking, not as much like most of us. It's a goal in progress. Not as much as I think in my mind it would be perfect that I did, but when I try to compare myself to the previous year, the previous month, previous thing, and I'm just getting better and better in terms of my movement every time. And then this year, my goal, which I'll talk about, is to kind of add some more strength. I used to be very steady in terms of lifting weights, and I haven't for the last few years, and I have them all in my garage. So I definitely want to increase my muscle mass now that I have gotten thinner. Clothes have been a great thing. I'm sure, like most of you, kind of yo-yoed. I had a lot of pairs of pants from various sizes all the way up, and I'm now back into the smallest ones. I have one more pair of pants that represents that I kept, gosh, it must have been for my late 20s, which represents the smallest I ever was in my adult life. And I can't fit into those yet. I might get there, and which I never thought I would be able to say I would ever get there again. It really just kept it. I don't know. Why do we keep some of these things? Just reminders that I was there once. So yeah, so that plays in though to my knitting and what I need to make for myself. And body dysmorphia is real. Even though I have lost this weight, I have, measurements and scale and stuff to see it. Sometimes it is harder for me to see it when I look at myself. It's just the way it is. So I need to be very cognizant for my knitting of that. And so I'll talk about that with my knitting goals. So that's what's life about for me. 2024, just in life, want to continue some of those enrichment, as I said, want to continue increasing movement and making myself the healthiest person I can be. And then I need to do some adulting. I need to go get a will and do some of those other things that I've been saying for the last few years and I just haven't done. So I need to come do some of that as well. Adulting, as I like to call it. All right, so let us go with my goals for 2024. Let's talk about my knitting goals for last year. So 2023, my goal every year. Well, let's talk about what I knit last year. Let's talk about that. My Evernote is being a little slow. But that's okay, because I have a paper version, so let's do that while it's coming up. How many projects did I do last year? I did 28, which is down from my normal. I usually do between 33 to 37, so I'm down a little bit. And then my yardage last year is about 12,500 yards. That is roughly about average, I would say. I think I usually get to on a normal year, like 14,000 yards, except on the years where I'm working on an Afghan, and then that artificially bumps like my totals. Like last year I finished that fingering weight Afghan that I've been working on for years, and you know, that doubled my total that year. So yeah, so that's what I finished. So the 28 projects, I finished 11 hats, 8 pairs of socks, 1 scarf, 2 little baby hats, 5 sweaters, which are either long sleeve or tees. I just count them as sweaters. And then 1 other, which was actually my knitted knockers. Of those 28, 10 were for charity. Most of the hats I made were for charity. 8 were for gifts or gift box, or 8 were for actual gifts. So most of those were socks for my mom, my brother, JC, as well as a scarf. 7 were for me, and then 3 are going into my gift box. Now, knitting goals. I have this every year. I want to have less stash. My stash is at a good space, let's say, and I haven't increased it, but I always say every year I want 10% less. So I started last year with 44,000 yards, and I had a goal of getting to 39,000 plus change. And I failed. My stash increased. So I started at 44,000 yards. I ended almost 48,000 yards. So I have more items this past year than went in. So it's okay. It's always just a goal. I wanted to continue charity knitting. I did that. I had a goal. I thought I was going to do some other bears and hats. Instead, I did hats, and I met my goal of 8, and then knockers. I did 10 knitted knockers, and so totally happy with that. I think my charity knitting is good. I wanted to use all my yarn that's 2017 or older. I have a thing where I like to keep my stash turning. I don't like old things in my stash, and this is just me. I know some people have much older stash, but in general, I have a goal of trying to go and look at my older stash and use it. And so I had 20 items that were 2017 or older, 12 full, 8 partial balls. And I would say I failed at this. I still have most of them. That because I failed at my Make 9, where most of those were from. And then I had my Make 9, which was supposed to be all stash projects that I picked that would help me go through specifically my older stash. And I made 4 of those, and I have 1 in process. So I would say partial. As I said, in previous years, I've managed to do most of these, and this year I didn't. I had 2 hats on the list, Pressed Flowers and Boneyard, which I completed both. I had 2 cowls for last year that were both fingering weight, and I did not do them, and I don't have any interest in doing them. Going back to, let's have some interest in doing them. The shawl is the Moonflower shawl that was on my Make 9. It's in process, and I'm loving it, and so I'm happy with that. And then I had 2 pairs of socks, and I finished both of those. Those were both using stash. And then sweaters, I had 2. One was a scrappy fingering weight one, and another was another one with actually the yarn that I switched to doing the Brooklyn. And I did not do those, and I'm not interested in doing those patterns anymore. And so I would say I was partial with that. And then I also wanted to podcast 1 every month, and I did not do that. I only completed 7 podcasts last year. So where does that put me for 2014 for knitting goals? I still want to do 10% less stash. So as I said, I'm starting with 47,836, and I want to get to 43,052. For me, I think my magical kind of stash level that I want to stay at is about 40,000. So losing 10% of the stash, meaning knitting more, getting more out than I take in, and decreasing my stash is still a goal. Intentional stash buying. I don't need to increase my stash so much, but I do want to have intentional buying. One of the things I talked about was my sweaters. So I did 5 sweaters, I think, this year. The Velocore, which was a short sleeve t-shirt, the Rocket Tee, this Metamorphic. I did my other sweater that I'm blanking on, the fingering weight that I wore, my Rainback sweater, and then I think I had my Birch sweater by Andre Mowry. I love the Metamorphic, I love the Birch, and I love the other one I did. The 2 t-shirts, I'm actually going to be finding new homes for. One, the Rocket Tee I talked about, and then the Velocore, which I really do like. I made it for, I think, the size, or even a little too big for the size I was at the time I was knitting it, and now that I'm smaller, it's definitely just too big. And so it's a beautiful sweater. I want to find a new home for it. But for me, with intentional sweater knitting, I don't have a lot of sweater quantities. I have a few, but I want to make sure, I'd rather buy for sweaters in the moment, meaning be inspired by a sweater and then find a yarn that I know that I'll love for that sweater. And I have a lot of knitting friends who've knit with a lot of yarns, and I have friends who are yarn dyers who have beautiful yarns, and I can, with confidence, get yarn that I know will work for a sweater that I want to make in that moment. And so that's kind of where I want to move towards. Before, I think I would just, like most of us, buy quantities and then figure out what I'm going to knit with, or buy it in the moment. But for me, because I tend to only do 5 or 6 sweaters a year at most, you know, I'll buy a sweater quantity and then it will be 2 years before I use it. And then by the time I get to it, it's not something I want. The other thing is buying colors and selecting patterns that I'll actually want to wear. And for me, I like wearing color, and I have some colors that I want to wear, but in general, I want to wear more solid sweaters. So I need to look, which there's a lot of beautiful ones, you know, with that my friends do, but I need to really kind of mesh this desire to knit these really colorful things with what I really want to wear in the real world, which is more simple, solid color things. So anyway, so intentional stash buying. For this year, I want to buy sweater quantities to make specific sweaters at the time I want to knit them. And I say max of 2 in my notes. We'll see. And then I want to limit my souvenir yarn, because I do have a bunch of events I'm going to that have places to buy yarn, which has been typically and historically where I get most of my yarn from. I do still want to do that, but maybe instead of fingering, which I have a fair amount of fingering, you know, try to get 2 sports, or, you know, 3DKs, something that can make a hat or a cowl or some other kind of accessory or small kind of gift knit, but will increase my stash in those areas I don't have a lot, which would be sport and DK, less fingering. We'll see. That's my goal. I want to continue charity knitting. I think I have a whole bin of yarn that isn't even counted in my stash. hidden under my bed, that is worsted weight and Aran specifically for charity knitting, that I picked up on the de-stash table at Knockers a few years ago. So I still have a fair amount to knit through. So I want to continue knitting hats. I actually have a box of hats that I'm going to be sending to Knitters in the Rainbow. Is that the charity? I sent to them last year. Anyways, I have a charity between that and another charity, so I'm going to knit those 2. And then also I have yarn, and we'll continue to make knitted knockers. So my goal is to probably do another 10. And I actually have a lot of cotton, not a lot, but I have cotton yarn for this year for that charity knitting, where I don't have to buy anymore. Using my yarn. So 5 years is my thing, my idea of I want them to stay in my stash. So this year will limit or trigger, I want to use yarn 2018 or older. Now, I'm going to be realistic with this. I want to try to use 50% of the yarn I have that is 2018 or older. And I have listed it all out on a spreadsheet, and I have 21 full skeins and 12 partials. So we'll see how I end up with that. I'm going to try to, when I go to my sock yarns or, you know, socks, try to limit myself to picking from those skeins that I've already set aside as the older yarn. And then I have set up my Make 9 for 2024. Again, focusing on stash, focusing on older stash. I have set it up for 2 hats, the Alpine Bloom and the Parkview hat. The Alpine Bloom is actually going to be my next color work after I finish my shawl, and I've actually skeined it up, and I'm going to use a skein of Spin Cycle I've had for a while. So that's going to use that up. I have a cowl called the Colormatic, and this is going to be a worsted weight Caron, using some Caron yarn I have in my stash. I have some that I I don't know, I bought it at Joann's a few years ago, and I'm going to make a cool cowl out of it for my sister because she likes and needs acrylic because she's allergic to other non-acrylics. So that's on my list. I have 2 shawls, the Sky Storm and Thinking Ahead, again, both using fingering weight, stash. And then 2 pairs of socks, the Craggy Shore, which you already saw, I've already cast on. That's one of them. And then the Magical Mycelium socks. These are these really cool colorwork socks with mushrooms. So I'm going to use some red I have, and I'm going to just use some scraps to do these really cool. I love mushrooms, love them. So I'm going to do that as a make 9 for using some of my stash up. And then the sweaters, I have the Brooklyn Raglan, which I've already cast on, as well as the Salty Air, which is a t-shirt by Samantha Guerin that I'm going to try to do. Samantha Guerin is this keynote speaker at Zombie Apocalypse this summer. And so you get some points in the knit along by knitting that. And so I have some stash that I'm going to pull out and use. So that's what I have for my 2024 goals. What kind of goals were you guys thinking about? Do you guys set up knitting goals? As I said, having that framework and having a list, it just helps keep me organized, and I love to be organized. I love to stay organized. And yeah, as I said, right now I'm feeling really motivated in my knitting, really motivated in my reading, and just motivated in general. Work is starting to be a little less crazy, which is good. I have a few more months to get through. And as I said, I have some trips lined up. That always makes me excited. I love looking forward to trips, and really looking forward to doing the Morocco trip with my brother and then my favorite uncle. Like, he's my favorite uncle, and his wife is, I love her. So they're just great travel people, and I'm really excited they decided to join us. I think that particular tour group I go with, they're really cool in that it's a small tour group of 12 people or less, and we stay at all local places using local guides. It's coordinated, and when I went to India, we traveled in vans and things like that. So it is being escorted in a country where I think being escorted helps, and having local people help, and really get to see a side of, I've never been to Africa. So this will be kind of my first foray into it. And I've always had sort of a romanticized view of Morocco. So we'll see how that goes, and seeing all the different influences and things there. I'm just excited, even though it's not till next October, but it will be awesome. And then all the other knitting trips I have, and other trips that will fall in there, that talking of doing, I'm sure I try to do a few trips with my my partner, so we'll try to do a few weekends away. I haven't I'll have some trips with to see my family probably put in there somewhere. I haven't lined those up yet. My niece or nephew usually tries to come see me over the summer. I need to get that on the books, so I'll have some other things I'll get on the books as well. And it's just shaping up to be a good year. 2024 is going to be a good year. I hope it's going to be good for everybody else. I'm going to leave you. You can sort of see the little sleeping cat behind me. She's been pushing me as she sleeps. And I'm going to go get this started. But I'm hoping everyone had a great 2023. And if you didn't, 2024, I just love, even though a lot of people don't like to set resolutions, and I don't set hard resolutions, I just goals. I like the idea of starting anew. And even though for 2024, the actual day, we didn't go and celebrate or do anything crazy, we haven't for the last few years. In fact, we were in bed at 11:55. I like just the concept of starting a fresh year and being able to look back and see what I accomplished in 2023 and set some intentions for 2024. And they're really just intentions. And as I said, some of them may happen or may not, and it's okay to for them not to happen and for things to go off rail. That's life. And but every year, my intention is to have a good year. And 2023 was a pretty good year. And I'm hoping 2024 is going to be a pretty good year. And with lots of knitting and travel and friends and family, that to me is what it's all about. And I hope 2024 is for you, whatever you're all about, whatever that may be. And I hope to see some of you guys later this year at various places. And yeah. All right, that's enough. I'm getting one, this is going to be a super long podcast. And if you made it to the end, thank you. And I apologize for such a long podcast. And I'll see you again in a few months. So that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. And if you're looking for me, I'm Allison1031 on Ravelry and Instagram, though I never Instagram. Maybe that will be something I do this year, or maybe not. All right. Bye, everybody.